Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the Do Deals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this interview. Today I have Derek Domdeck on the line with us, and Derek is a very successful investor out of the Wisconsin area near Green Bay, Wisconsin. Small area, but he dominates his market over there, and that's what we're going to focus in on this interview. Is like how to dominate your small market, either because you have a small market or you're in a big market that's way too competitive, and you're going to go to the outskirts of those markets and dominate all the outskirt markets, right? And so we're going to go into that. Derek does wholesaling. He does hard money lending. He does creative deals. He also runs a RIA group, which he takes on students and help them to do deals as well and fund their deals. And so Derek, welcome, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's take us back, Derek. Take us back to, how did you get started in real estate investing, and what got you even interested in real estate investing to begin with?
Well, I mean, we're going back about 14 years, and I was always in the construction trades, always a hands-on type of person, and built my first house by myself, and got really intrigued in real estate as the markets were starting to heat up in the early to mid 2000s. But we started like everybody started. We bought a couple rental properties, my wife and I, and I guess we've never been known to do anything halfway. So where we got to 2 properties, we soon turned it into 4, and 4 soon turned into 8, and within a couple of years, we were up to about 29 properties. Unfortunately, and fortunately, we were up to 29 properties, but then the markets crashed. And we were doing business in Wisconsin, where we're from, as well as in Florida. And when the markets in Florida crashed, it negatively affected our cash flow. And I guess it thrust us into a decision of either quitting or starting to bust our butt. And we started doing a lot more flipping, more, bringing in larger chunks of cash, essentially to cover the negative cash flow that we were getting out of our rentals in Florida. And I guess I look at it now, Tim, as a blessing in disguise, because many, many, many people did quit back then, and we chose to tough it out. But we were forced to learn how to get creative. And, we were doing everything with banks. And so now moving forward, I don't do any of my business with banks at all, other than my end buyers using some of my local banks to get their mortgages. But we really, like I said, we had to get creative, and that's something that I really truly think was a blessing. It was a little bit of a painful blessing back then, but it has led us to some great things now moving forward.
When you say that you were doing deals with banks, you mean like you bought houses using your credit, get a loan, and then rent them out?
Correct. Everything was funded through primarily commercial type of loans. We've always structured all of our deals through entities, LLCs, trusts, things of that nature. But I guess the part that really hurt us the most as the markets crashed was we had personally guaranteed all these loans. And that in itself, it's, again, you either quit or you fail and go down in a ball of fire, or you figure out a way to keep it going. And that's what we ended up doing.
Okay. Did you have to sell any of those rental properties, or let them go back to the bank or anything like that?
Ultimately, the properties in Florida, we were able to negotiate with all of our lenders. We did end up, figuring out how to do some short sales, and yes, we were able to work it all out. It took a good number of years when it was all said and done. On the positive side, all of our properties that were in Wisconsin, we're doing fine because we learned the hard way that buying property solely based on appreciation could kill you, right? But our properties in Wisconsin were always bought for cash flow because we don't have large appreciation hikes or declines other than maybe some vacation type property, waterfront property, stuff like that. But in the Midwest, our markets are pretty stable and always have been. And so everything we had held in Wisconsin was doing fine. It was deal with the issues in Florida and then move forward from there. So for anybody listening, the one thing I tell everybody that comes to my REIA, and I'm very open about this, is if there is a problem, don't hide from it. You know, the first thing we did was go to our local lenders and explain to them. I sat down with the president of the bank and the board and said, this is what's going on. This is how we're going to solve it. And that set us apart from everybody else that was just running and hiding, you know, jumping into all these class action lawsuits and you know, pointing the finger at somebody else. And that's really a pet peeve of mine, Tim, is I wasn't happy about the markets, but at the end of the day, I did sign on a dotted line. It's my responsibility.
That's good. Yeah. And I'm glad you were like clear-headed enough to, you know, like, okay, I'm going to face this. I'm going to get this resolved and let me work through the bank to do that. Right.
Yeah. And it really served us very well moving forward. Their hands were tied to a certain extent, but they were still willing to fund us even as our mini empire was crumbling down in Florida. My local bank was willing to still keep doing some deals with me going through 2007, 2008, 2009, and it kept our head above water. So when we got to about 2010, we had the melee was calmed down and was behind us. At that point, we really started structuring a lot more fix and flips just in the state of Wisconsin. We were doing probably about 8 to 12 a year, and going to about 2012 is when I met my current business partner. And his background was always in hard money lending. He had done quite a few flips, but what really made us mesh well was we're polar opposites in our background, which really gives us the ability to fill in any gaps, right? Whatever he's weak at, I'm strong, and what I'm weak at, he's strong. And I can say, you know, partnerships can be very stressful, or they can be the best thing that ever happened to you, you know. So moving forward, yeah, that was a huge eye-opener for me to see the power of being a lender. And we've been landlords this entire 14 years, and everybody wants to be a landlord for the cash flow. I really like being a lender for the cash flow without the liability and without the hassles of tenants and toilets, right? And the lender typically has the most control. They make the rules. So that's been really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's how I got started into private lending too. I realized, like, you know what? Whether I make money on a deal or lose money on a deal, my lender still get paid. So it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I need to be the lender. So yeah, that's awesome. So you and your partner, what is it that you do, and what is it that your partner does?
So right now, primarily, Jeff is my partner's name. Jeff does a lot of our background, runs our Google AdWords campaigns, runs all of our IT, because that's his profession. So anything having to do with our websites, we do have a couple of virtual assistants in the Philippines. He handles all of them. And when the leads come in, I take the calls. I do all the negotiating. I structure the deals. When I get a deal under contract, it kind of jumps back into Jeff's plate to move forward with the funding, get all the documents done, and basically I call him, tell him I need some money, and you know, it'll be at the title company on this day, make sure the money's there, and we flow really well.
That's awesome. That's a pretty good structure. Yeah. So he does the marketing for the deals. You do the acquisition. He funds the deal. That's a good setup. So let's talk about your different marketing, and I'd like for you to speak both from what you're currently doing in your market, as well as like anyone who's listening to this that's in a small market or that they should be going into a small market because their big market's so competitive. Like how can someone get into a small market and quickly dominate that market?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the biggest thing that I learned again when I met Jeff was I never wanted to be that person in the front of the room, right? I never wanted to be the person being interviewed by Tim, so to speak, because I was everything was kept to myself. And when you start telling people what you do and how you do it, including in my case starting my own real estate investor association, you then become the go-to person by default, actually. So when you're in a small market, and I would tell anybody listening to this, even if it's just a networking group of 3 to 6 people, maybe a dozen people, that's really all you need. You don't need hundreds of people on a buyer's list. You just need a core network of active investors that you can lean on each other for advice. You can lean on each other for deals, whether it's wholesaling back and forth or whatever the case may be. So to dominate a small market, you have to let everybody in the area know exactly what you do. And that is hard for a lot of people, especially if they're newer. They don't believe in themselves maybe, but it really doesn't have anything to do with your experience. It has more to do with your aggressiveness and your ability to just take action and move forward. A quick example, I was invited to speak at a local landlord association last week, and they gave me the option of speaking about whatever I wanted to speak about. Well, we're looking to acquire, multifamily properties. So I spoke about what a retiring landlord can do to liquidate their properties other than just list them with a realtor, right? So after talking for 20 minutes, I have a married couple who's retiring that have 50 units free and clear, and they really love the idea of possibly master leasing all 50 units to me. And I can structure that deal with almost nothing out of my pocket, as well as get an option to buy the properties. And it's a win-win, because in their case, they don't want to pay all the recapture tax or the capital gains tax. So structuring both seller financing as well as master leases, it helps them avoid the taxation. I get into 50 units with very little out of my pocket. So, but you have to let people know what you do. That's the key. So otherwise, our marketing and what anybody can do and what a lot of people already do, direct mail. In large markets, the people are going to, that you're sending the mail out to are going to get 15, 20, 30, 50 letters. In our market, they get 1, maybe 2, and occasionally 3. And the funny thing is, I do have several students that send out direct mail. A lot of times they're getting 1 or 2 or 3, but it's from me and my students. It still all trickles back to me in a roundabout way. Okay? And what I tell people as well, Tim, is getting 2 or 3 letters is not a big deal, because as a homeowner, the first person that sent them a letter, they may not be really excited about the offer. The second person they contact tells them approximately the same purchase price. Now the people are starting to come down to reality, and by the time the third person sends them a letter and they're talking to them, they may start realizing that your offer is what everyone else is offering, and then they accept it. The first 2 letters helped you in a lot of cases. Yeah, so I really like the small markets just from the dominance side of it, because there's very, very little competition. And quite honestly, how many deals do you have to do to make a good living, right? If your market is 3 million people, okay. If it's 3,000 people, I still only need to do a few deals, right? Well, more than a few, but you get the point.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And so with the local market, you mentioned, Jeff manages the Google ads and stuff. Are you able to see that you're also able to dominate your online presence a lot easier. I'm sure keywords,
Absolutely.
SEO is easier, pay per click it's cheaper, I'm sure. Can you speak into
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah. Yeah, our campaigns, we do fluctuate. We play with them to see what's working, what's not working. But I would say I would have two or three other people maybe doing pay-per-click campaigns in my area, and I know those people. So even if they get the deal over me, we may very well still pass it back and forth between ourselves on a wholesale basis or a lending basis. So yeah, we can definitely dominate our market and know our competition, usually on a personal level. So yeah, it's a heck of a lot cheaper for sure. So I truly love the small markets, and I think that a lot of people, especially when they go to maybe a larger education company to get their training, I don't want to say that they're misled because that's not true. But I think people have unrealistic goals, and they shy away from their small market, thinking they have to be in a large market. If you're in a city that's 5,000 people to 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is, again, you can still do a very, very lucrative business by just targeting that area and becoming the local professional, the local go-to guy. So, um, honestly, Tim, we tell everybody within our RIA groups, we run our RIAs strictly as educational, groups. We tell them exactly what we do for marketing over and over and over again. And the people that come and go out of our RIAs still don't do it. And so if you have that individual going to a large education company, if they're not doing what the local RIA's proven to work, they're probably not going to do what the large education company told them to do either. And I see a lot of people failing in that regard. Um, it really just comes down to consistency. And, if you're going to do a free campaign on Craigslist, you have to do it consistently. If you're going to do a direct mail campaign, you have to do it consistently. And that's, I think, where most people fail is they may or may not get the activity they expected within 2 or 3 weeks, and then they let it fall by the wayside. So if you want to dominate a small market, consistency is 100%, and that's the same in a large market. But 100%, you have to do that.
Yeah, that it reminds me of my late mentor. He passed away not too long ago, but like he was someone I learned from when I first started, and
Mm-hmm.
people would ask him all the time. It's like, Jim, what's the best marketing method or strategy? And he says it's the one that you do.
Absolutely.
It's so
Absolutely.
true.
Sure.
What's up? All right. So you have your Real Club, you have your direct mail, your Google ads. What else? What other marketing do you do?
Craigslist, and we do that. That's actually where we got our best deal ever off of there, off of our free Craigslist ad. We also have one of our employees in the Philippines. She goes out and calls for sale by owners, and she gets those from a number of different sources. But she's just putting in phone calls and collecting data and information and trying to find a motivated seller in that regard. And that's it. I mean, honestly, our campaigns are not super, super expensive like you may have to do in a large market. We're targeting 2 to 3 properties a month, and I would say on average we're spending $2,000 to $3,000 per month in our marketing efforts. So that compared to probably where you are is a fraction of what you may have to spend to get the same 2 or 3 properties per month.
Right.
So
Gotcha. Okay. And so a new student starting out, right?
mhm.
Let's say they're in a small market. What do you teach them to do first?
Well, first thing I tell everybody, and this is probably a little biased because I love negotiating, so I start teaching them the do's and don'ts of negotiating, and and then it's get your name out there. Start with the free stuff, the Craigslist ads, the bandit signs, um, putting up flyers in local grocery stores, gas stations, just the grassroots effort, because they can do that. Absolutely, you can do that for free, and then after they've started doing that, then I start to get them into direct mail. Different lists have different success rates or ratios, but I truly believe that if you negotiate properly, your success ratio on your direct mail campaign is just going to skyrocket without having to spend so much additional money in direct mail. I'm probably making up a statistic, but I believe the national average on direct mail is right around a 1% response rate. 1 to 2 is extremely well. Our campaigns are 5 to 7% response, and out of those responses, I'm getting a contract out of about 1 out of 15. So we can really ramp it up. I know a lot of national education companies talk about making 100 offers to get 1 deal. You know, we're a lot closer to 1 out of 15.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, and I think number one, I mean, your marketing is much more targeted, and then I think when they say, making 100 offers to get 1, they're talking about like, fistball kind of offers, where they're competing with a lot of people, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And then on let's look at your hard money lending business. How did you get into that? What made you? Well, you kind of touch on what made you decide to do that, but share with us some more about your hard money lending business.
Well, ultimately, Jeff had already had his hard money business going when we partnered up, and so we've grown it to a degree where he does have a fund with a fairly large amount of money in it. Being a RIA leader or the head of a RIA, there's never a shortage of people looking for money, and so it isn't anything we have to advertise. It's literally people are asking us on a weekly basis, monthly basis, what we have available, and will we or will we not fund one of their projects. What we have started doing more of now is what's called wrap lending, and we may bring in one of our private investors that are going to get 6 to 10% interest on their money. We will put in a smaller amount of money and wrap their loan at a 12% return with 3 points. In some cases, we go as high as 15%. But I don't know if you understand wrap lending, Tim, but essentially our small amount is wrapping over the top of the large first position mortgage. We're getting the spread on the total amount. So to put it into quick numbers, if somebody needed $100,000, we bring a lender in at $98,000 at 8%, and we put in $2,000 at 12%, but the 12% wraps over the top of the total amount. Okay, if you put a mortgage calculator to it, it takes the return on your small amount and jacks it up in anywhere from the 200 to 500% return on your money annualized. And it's a great way to take like an IRA, for instance, that doesn't have a lot of money, or a small solo 401k, and you can really jack up your returns within your IRAs by doing that.
So does it work like, the lender is lending it to you and then you wrap
No.
that? No?
No, the lender, the underlying lender that's, let's say, getting the 8%, they are in a first mortgage position. We are in a second mortgage position, but the verbiage within the note and mortgage documents clearly, show that it's wrapping over the top of their first mortgage position. So ultimately, the borrower has 2 loans. Okay. The way it's structured, though, is the borrower pays us on a monthly basis. We take out our portion and we forward the rest of the payment onto the underlying lender. So I'll give you a quick story. It'll make a little bit more sense. I'm going to have to be a little close on the numbers. I don't have it right in front of me. We had a person that needed $140,000, we brought in, and he was willing to pay 15% interest on a 3-year loan. So we brought in a lender that had $139,000 in their IRA. We're giving that lender 12% return on his money. He's in a first position, okay? And the real sweet part of this deal is it's backed by 150 acres of agricultural land with a value of about $450,000. So the $450,000 is securing a $140,000 loan. That's pretty safe, right? 30% loan to value. So we put $1,000 in and wrapped the entire note at 15%. Okay. So at closing, we also charged origination points for doing the loan. So we charged $5,000 at closing up front to do the loan. So we put in $1,000, but we walked away from closing with $5,000. That makes sense, Tim? Okay. So ultimately, what do we have in the deal? Nothing. And on a monthly basis, the payment comes in, it's $1,750 approximately, and we're paying the first position roughly, it's right around $1,325. We're cash flowing about $350 a month on that. Okay. So when we take into account the points that we got for originating the loan, and on a 3-year loan, that $1,000 that we put in for 5 minutes will return roughly $22,000 over 3 years.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! All right, so from a sort of usury perspective, you're pretty safe. The ball is getting it, under usury law, right? But because you're doing the wrap around the first lien, the first loan, your effective return is much, much greater.
Correct, and I'm glad you brought up usury because it's one of the beautiful things with the state of Wisconsin that hardly anybody knows or even looks into. On a commercial loan, we don't have any usury limits, and these are all commercial loans. Okay? We would not wrap any kind of a personal loan to any homeowner because then, yes, there's absolutely usury limits, and we don't want to go there. But and it's a very important point. I'm glad you brought it up. So even with that particular loan that I just told you about, the downside in the state of Wisconsin, our foreclosure laws are horrible. So if that person failed to pay us, it would take up to 2 years because that is a farmer that we gave that loan to. It could take up to 2 years to get that collateral from him. In that case, we asked him up front and documented through the attorneys if he would be comfortable signing those deeds and putting them in escrow so that if he ever fell more than 90 days behind, there's no foreclosure. We own the property. And he absolutely agreed to that. So we have a $450,000 security. Our job as the wrapping lender is to protect our investor that put in the bulk of the money. So if the borrower defaults, we will continue to pay, in this particular case, our underlying lender. We will take property back valued at $450,000. We are only responsible to pay that first position his $139,000. So if the borrower fails, we literally could make $300,000 off of our $1,000. Now, let me be clear: we do not want that to happen. We want this borrower to succeed. We do very well with him succeeding. Everybody is happy, but we also have to protect ourselves.
That's incredible. This is my first time hearing about wrap lending. So thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun.
Yeah, this is really powerful for sure. Yeah, I've been like I said, I've been getting into private lending and I've been loaning my own money, but now I'm like, okay, I need to work with other private lenders and and use their money as well. And so I've been thinking of, okay, what are the different ways I can go about doing that?
Absolutely.
And this wrap lending is just a brilliant way to do it.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. And it's really a win-win-win for everybody involved, because the borrower is getting what they're seeking. The lender, the underlying lender, they don't know the borrower. They don't have those connections to the borrower, but they want to get a good return on their money. And now, the reason that you want to do a wrap, Tim, is you don't want to be accused of brokering without a license. We're not mortgage brokers. So we have to put some of our own money in that second position so that we're not brokering. And that's the whole point of it, because we are a principal to the transaction.
Yeah, I love it. This answers exactly what I've been looking for and trying to do. Oh man! So there you have, folks. If you have some money, if you ever consider getting into private lending, definitely search on this wrap lending. All right, Derek. By now the listeners, I'm sure they would love to somehow reach out to you, connect with you, learn more from you. Where would you like to send them?
Well, our website, you can always get a hold of me. It's avidtrader.com, and that's spelled out AVEDTRADER.com. That's our parent website. I can also be reached at Central Wisconsin REIA, which is just CWREIA.com. And, we're always looking to grow our network. I truly love this business. I have a passion for it. If somebody, comes across some kind of a deal that they're stumbling on and it's a creative structure, I will absolutely take some time and help in any way I can, because that's what I enjoy about this business.
That's awesome. One last question. What are some of the books that you've read that that really impactful for you that you would recommend for the listeners?
I've really focused on negotiating and getting away from traditional sales techniques. Part of the reason I'm able to do what I do is because I truly do focus on what the needs are of the seller over and above my needs. And so I really got into Pitch Anything was a great book. I do like the 10X rule by Grant Cardone. Anything by Grant Cardone, if that doesn't get you jacked up, nothing will. But I want to work on anything that's going to keep my mindset uplifted. And actually, Tim, if I would have known ahead of time, I probably could have made a list. But those are really the ones that I focus on the most.
Right. No, this is great. This is great. All right, Derek, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate this awesome interview. I got tons of value out of this. I always love doing these interviews because I get to learn so much about what other investors all around the country are doing that, that I don't know about, or that like in this case is like brand new to me, Yep. Or sometimes it's just a good reminder too. And so just really appreciate you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it too, Tim. And if you need anything from me, you know how to get a hold of me.
Awesome. All right, everybody. I hope you got as much value out of this interview as I have. And if you have, give us a good feedback, good rating, like us, share it with your friends. With that, happy investing, and we'll see you on the next interview. All right, bye, everyone.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.